The morning my son told me to leave my own home, he was standing beneath the chandelier I had paid for, drinking coffee from a cup that had belonged to my late husband. "You'll need to stay somewhere else this weekend, Mom," Daniel said without looking at me. "Vanessa has already rented the house to a group of executives." For a moment, I genuinely believed I had misunderstood him. I was 68 years old. I had lived in that house for 36 years. Every room held a piece of my life. The pencil marks showing Daniel's height as a child, the rose garden my husband planted before he died, and the dining room where we had celebrated every birthday, graduation, and holiday. Yet, my own son was calmly explaining that strangers would be sleeping in my bedroom. I placed my tea on the kitchen counter. "Vanessa rented my house." Daniel finally looked at me. "Only for 3 nights. They're paying almost $4,000. It's good money." "Money for whom?" He hesitated. "For us, technically." That one word told me everything. 6 months earlier, Daniel and his wife Vanessa had moved into my home after Daniel lost his position at an investment company. He had been embarrassed to ask for help, and because I was his mother, I had opened my door without hesitation. I told them they could remain until they recovered financially. At first, they were grateful. Daniel carried my groceries and repaired the loose railing on the porch. Vanessa cooked dinner twice during their first week and repeatedly called me an angel. Then gratitude slowly transformed into entitlement. Vanessa moved my furniture without asking. She turned my sewing room into her office and began hosting business meetings in my dining room. She criticized my curtains, replaced my favorite dishes with modern black plates, and told visitors that she and Daniel were temporarily managing the property. I noticed the changes, but I remained silent. I told myself they were under pressure. I told myself that family required patience. Then 3 weeks earlier, Vanessa convinced me to let her photograph the house. She claimed she wanted pictures for an interior design portfolio. I believed her. Now I understood what those photographs were really for. "You listed my house as a vacation rental," I said. Daniel rubbed his forehead. "Vanessa handled the details." "That wasn't my question." He sighed. "Yes." "And you allowed it?" "We need the income, Mom." "You could have asked me." "You probably would have said no." His answer was so casual that it momentarily took my breath away. "So you decided my permission wasn't necessary?" Daniel's expression hardened. "You're making this more dramatic than it needs to be. Vanessa arranged a beautiful hotel room for you. Think of it as a little vacation." "I don't need a vacation from my own home." At that moment, Vanessa entered the kitchen wearing a cream-colored suit and carrying her tablet. "Good. You told her," she said. She tapped the screen and placed it in front of me. There was my house. The listing described it as an exclusive private residence with 4 bedrooms, a landscaped garden, a fully stocked kitchen, and no owner on the premises. My bedroom appeared in 6 photographs. My wedding picture had been removed from the dresser. My late husband's reading chair had been pushed into a corner. Even the blue quilt my mother made for me was displayed as part of the property's charm. The nightly price was $1,400. The listing already had reviews. I scrolled through them in disbelief. This isn't the first time. Vanessa exchanged a quick look with Daniel. Apparently, they had rented my home twice while I was visiting my sister in Seattle. Strangers had slept in my bed, used my kitchen, walked through my private rooms, and handled belongings that carried decades of memories. No one had asked me. No one had even told me. "How much money have you made?" Vanessa folded her arms. "That isn't really relevant." "It's extremely relevant. We used it for household expenses. I pay every household bill." Her confident expression faltered. Daniel stepped between us. "Mom, please. The guests arrive tomorrow afternoon. We can discuss everything after the weekend." I looked at my son, the boy I had once worked 2 jobs to support after his father became ill. I remembered sitting beside his bed when he had pneumonia, borrowing money to pay his university tuition, and selling my jewelry to help him purchase his first car. I had never kept score because I believed love wasn't a transaction. But as he stood there defending the woman who had rented my life to strangers, I realized they had mistaken my love for weakness. I picked up the tablet and looked carefully at the reservation. 12 executives, 3 nights, full access to the property, check-in at 4 o'clock Friday afternoon. Then I smiled. "You're right," I said. "We'll discuss it after the weekend." Relief spread across Daniel's face. "Thank you for understanding." "I understand perfectly." I went upstairs and closed my bedroom door, but I didn't pack a suitcase. Instead, I called Margaret Lewis, an attorney I had known for more than 20 years. Margaret and I had worked together when I managed the accounting department of a regional construction company. She was brilliant, calm, and impossible to intimidate. After I explained the situation, she asked one question. "Whose name is on the deed?" "Mine." "Did you sign a management agreement, rental authorization, or power of attorney?" "No." "Then your son and daughter-in-law have a serious problem." Over the next hour, we created a plan. First, I saved screenshots of the rental listing, every review, the reservation details, and the payment information Vanessa had accidentally left visible on her account. Then I located my property records, insurance policy, security camera footage, and proof that I alone had paid the mortgage, taxes, and utilities. By midnight, I knew exactly how long the rentals had been operating. 4 months. They had collected more than $27,000. The next morning, Vanessa found me arranging flowers in the dining room. "You haven't packed," she said. "I'm taking care of it." "The hotel check-in starts at 3. Daniel can drive you." "That won't be necessary." She looked suspicious, but her phone rang before she could question me further. For the rest of the day, she hurried around the house like a hotel manager. She placed expensive soap in the bathrooms, hid family photographs inside closets, and instructed a cleaning service to remove anything that made the property look too personal. At one point, I watched her place my husband's military medals inside a cardboard box. "Those remain in my bedroom," I said. "They don't match the atmosphere." "They're not decorations." She rolled her eyes and returned the box to the dresser. By Friday afternoon, the house no longer looked like my home. It looked like a carefully staged advertisement. At 3:30, Daniel came downstairs with my small suitcase. "I put a few things together for you." He had packed my clothes without asking. That felt like the final insult. "I'm not leaving," I said. His face changed. "Mom, we discussed this." "No, you issued instructions. I never agreed." Vanessa entered the foyer. "The guests will be here in 20 minutes. "I'm aware." "You cannot stay here." I almost laughed. "Vanessa, you don't have the authority to remove me from a house I own." Her cheeks flushed. "You're going to destroy everything we built. You built it with my property, my privacy, and my name without my consent." Before she could respond, the doorbell rang. Vanessa forced a smile and opened the door. A tall man in a dark suit stood on the porch with several colleagues behind him. 2 luxury vehicles waited in the driveway. "Welcome," Vanessa said brightly. "Everything is ready." I stepped forward. "I'm afraid it isn't." The man looked between us. "Are you Mrs. Coleman?" Vanessa lifted her chin. "Yes, I manage the property." "My name is Evelyn Coleman," I said. "I own the property, and I did not authorize this rental." The man's smile disappeared. Vanessa pulled me aside. "What are you doing?" "Telling the truth." She lowered her voice. "We have a contract. You have a fraudulent listing." Daniel appeared behind her. "Mom, please don't do this in front of everyone." "That was your concern when you packed my suitcase and tried to remove me from my home?" The guests began whispering among themselves. The tall man immediately called the rental platform. I calmly handed him Margaret's business card and explained that my attorney had already submitted documentation proving unauthorized use of the property. Vanessa's phone started ringing seconds later. Her account had been suspended. The reservation was canceled. Every upcoming booking was frozen pending an investigation. The guests returned to their vehicles while Vanessa stood in the foyer staring at her screen. When the final car disappeared, she turned toward me. "You humiliated me. No, your choices exposed you. We needed that money. You stole the use of my home." Daniel's voice shook. "We were going to pay you back. You never told me there was anything to pay back." Vanessa threw her tablet onto the sofa. "This house will belong to Daniel eventually. Why are you behaving as though we're strangers?" The room became completely still. There it was, the belief hiding beneath every disrespectful decision. They weren't treating my home as mine because they were already waiting for it to become theirs. I looked at Daniel. Is that what you believe? He didn't answer. Once again, his silence became his decision. I walked to the dining table, where 2 envelopes had been waiting beneath a vase of white roses. I handed one to Vanessa and the other to Daniel. These are formal notices prepared by my attorney. You have 30 days to leave. Vanessa tore open her envelope. You're evicting your own son? I'm ending an arrangement that has become dishonest and harmful. Daniel stared at the document. Where are we supposed to go? You're both educated adults. You will find somewhere. We can't afford the kind of place we need. I met his eyes. You had $27,000 in rental income. His face turned pale. Vanessa looked at him sharply. How does she know that? Because the house may have been easy for you to control, but the accounts weren't. I had spent 42 years working with financial records. They had apparently forgotten that. That evening, no one spoke. Vanessa locked herself in the guest room while Daniel sat alone on the back porch. I prepared tomato soup, toasted a slice of bread, and ate at my dining table beneath the warm chandelier. For the first time in 6 months, I didn't feel like a visitor in my own life. 2 days later, Daniel asked to speak with me. He looked exhausted. Vanessa says you're trying to destroy our marriage. I haven't discussed your marriage. She says you've always judged her. I gave her a home. He lowered his eyes. I know. I also gave you a home, Daniel. You repaid me by renting it to strangers and sending me away when my presence became inconvenient. He sat silently for a long time. Then he whispered, I was ashamed. Of losing your job? He nodded. Vanessa said the rental would give us enough money to appear successful while I searched for something new. Then the money started coming in, and it became easy. Dishonesty often becomes easy when someone else pays the price. Tears filled his eyes. I'm sorry. I believed he regretted what had happened, but regret and change were not the same thing. I love you, I told him, but I won't rescue you from the consequences of this. During the following weeks, their belongings gradually disappeared into boxes. Vanessa barely spoke to me. She treated every packed item as evidence of my cruelty. Daniel, however, began changing. He found temporary work with a local accounting firm. He sold the luxury car he could no longer afford. He contacted the rental platform and accepted responsibility for the unauthorized listings. Then, 3 days before the deadline, Vanessa left without him. She had secured an apartment across town and made it clear that Daniel wasn't welcome unless he convinced me to drop the legal claim involving the rental income. For the first time, he refused. On moving day, Daniel carried his last suitcase to an old but clean apartment near his new job. Before leaving, he stood beneath the porch light. I kept thinking silence would prevent conflict, he said, but all it did was make me part of what was wrong. That's an important lesson. Will you ever trust me again? Trust isn't returned through promises. It comes back through consistent actions. He nodded. Then I'll start there. After he left, I changed every exterior lock. I restored my family photographs, returned my husband's medals to their proper place, and placed my mother's blue quilt back across my bed. Then I made one final decision. I converted the guest room into a studio for women rebuilding their lives after retirement, divorce, or loss. Once a month, I invited women from the community to gather there for financial planning workshops, tea, and honest conversation. I taught them how to protect their savings, understand property documents, recognize financial manipulation, and create boundaries before resentment destroyed their peace. 6 months later, Daniel arrived for Sunday dinner carrying flowers and a homemade pie. He knocked even though he knew the door code. When I opened the door, he smiled nervously. I thought a respectful guest should bring dessert. It was a small gesture, but it mattered. Over dinner, he told me he had been promoted. He had started therapy. He and Vanessa were living separately, and for the first time, he was learning how to make decisions without hiding behind someone else. I listened without solving anything for him. That was part of my growth, too. After he left, I stood in the quiet foyer and looked around the home I had almost allowed others to take from me. People often think losing your home begins with a legal document or an unpaid bill. Sometimes it begins much more quietly. It begins when someone moves your belongings without asking, when they spend your money as though it belongs to them, when they make plans for your future without including you, when they tell you to leave and expect you to obey. I didn't reclaim my home by screaming or seeking revenge. I reclaimed it by telling the truth, protecting what belonged to me, and refusing to apologize for having boundaries. Because love may open the door for someone, but respect is what allows them to remain inside.